So we're nearing fall 2025. E-bikes have become the quiet companions of people who want to slip deeper into the natural world. Machines built for long scenic loops, thawed climbs to overlooks, and unplanned turns into gravel spurs without worrying about range or sketchy handling. Safer, smarter systems are now the norm. UL 2849 certification for peace of mind at home, torque sensors that mirror your effort on winding roads, hydraulic brakes for measured speeds on descents, and big removable batteries that encourage exploring further from town. The upgraded HAOQI Rhino sits right in the stream of outdoor-minded design, pairing a Softail chassis and 20 by 4 inch rubber with a stout 1000 watt rear hub and a 48 volt 23.2 amp pack, so you can float over chip seal, trace ridge lines, and wander onto gravel connectors without losing rhythm. It's a moto-styled e-bike tuned for the simple joy of looking up, breathing in the scenery, and letting the road, paved or not, draw you deeper into the landscape. The upgraded HAOQI Rhino is a compact, moto-styled e-bike that feels purpose-built for real roads and real grades. It looks like a small motorcycle, rides like a confident, well-sorted electric bicycle, and thrives on the kind of mixed surfaces that define the North Georgia mountains. You sense that mission the moment you settle onto the long bench and roll out onto winding pavement that spikes suddenly into double-digit climbs, then breaks into patched asphalt, chip seal, and gravel connectors. Instead of feeling out of place when the surface changes, the Rhino seems to relax. The frame stays calm, the tires hold their line, the suspension takes the chatter out of your feet and lower back, and the powertrain adds just enough push to keep rhythm without overwhelming traction. That combination turns a specification sheet into a coherent riding experience. Alright, let's get this thing unboxed. Unboxing the bike is straightforward, and all necessary tools for assembly are included. First, I remove the packaging straps and open the box by carefully removing the tape and pulling the box free of the staples. Then I laid the box down, I slid the e-bike out carefully, stand the e-bike up and remove all zip ties and protective foam, revealing the sleek design of the HAOQI Rhino e-bike. Install the handlebars by loosening the bolts on the bike stem, centering the handlebars and rotating them to align with your preferred riding position before tightening the bolts securely. For the front wheel, loosen the bolts on the protective bar on the front fork. Add the front wheel and tighten the bolts to ensure it is secure. The pedals are clearly marked for the left and right sides, matching the pedal stems. Screw in the pedals and use a wrench to further tighten them easily. Install the front headlamp by loosening the bolts on the fork brace, attaching the headlamp, and then adjusting its orientation to face forward. Alright, let's take this thing for a ride. At the heart of the Rhino is a 1000 watt rear hub motor with peak output of up to 1500 watts. Numbers by themselves don't explain why the bike works so well in hilly country, but the way the power arrives does. A torque sensor measures how hard you're pedaling and meters assistance to match. So instead of an abrupt on-off surge, there is a proportional, almost conversational handoff between legs and motor. On twisting blacktop that makes corner exits smoother and more predictable, when you come back onto the pedals mid-apex, the bike adds exactly what you asked for instead of jumping ahead. On gravel, the benefit is even clearer. Loose, over-hard surfaces punish heavy-handed inputs, and the Rhino sensor lets you feed in power through the cranks in small, precise amounts. Stay seated, keep your spin round, and the rear contact patch stays hooked up rather than skittering. That quality is what separates the machine you tolerate on dirt from one you trust. The removable 400 volt 23.2 amp battery delivers meaningful endurance for rolling terrain with real climbs. A published maximum of up to 90 miles is plausible under conservative assist and low speeds, but the more important truth is that the pack's capacity gives you an honest buffer for sustained grades, higher assist levels when needed, and the occasional throttle use for traffic gaps or short, punchy rises. The 3 amp charger brings the pack back to a full over several hours. And because the battery lifts out easily, topping off indoors is painless. The color LCD includes USB charging, which sounds like a small detail until you're deep into the mountain roads and your phone needs power for navigation. Then it becomes the kind of convenience that keeps a long day simple. Geometry is the first thing I notice on a motor-styled e-bike, and on winding mountain roads, it can make or break a ride. The Rhino's 6061 aluminum frame hits a sweet spot between stability and agility. The wheelbase gives it calm manners at Class 3 speeds, while the 20-inch rims keep steering quick enough to place the front tire exactly where you want it. You sit in the chassis rather than teetering above it, with bars that let you tip into tight switchbacks without feeling pitched over the axle. The long, flat bench isn't just for looks. It lets you slide forward or back to tune weight on the front or rear, which pays off when you're settling the bike for a downhill sweeper or asking for extra bite on a decreasing radius turn. Standover is friendly. The fit window from roughly 5'3" to 6'4" feels genuine. And once you're rolling, the claimed 82 pounds simply reads as planted. Add a 400-pound payload rating, and you've got a compact machine that feels substantial without becoming cumbersome. The move from a hardtail concept to a softtail layout is the upgrade that changes how this bike behaves over imperfect surfaces. The fork includes hydraulic lockout for smooth sections, and the rear shock is tuned to filter the small persistent chatter that wears riders down over time. On patch asphalt, the fork blunts that sharp sting that accumulates into fatigue on washboard gravel. The rear keeps the tire digging rather than skipping. Run the 20 by 4-inch tires at sensible pressures, enough to ward off pinch flats on jagged aggregate, yet not so high that they feel wooden. And the combination of air volume and suspension turn chip seal and freshly graded county lanes into something you float across instead of fight. The proof isn't in a single dramatic moment, it's in how fresh your legs and lower back feel when the loop is over. Tires define any fat tire platform, and the Rhino's 20 by 4-inch rubber earns its place. On smooth blacktop, there's a low hum that blends with the hub motor's whirl, but the payoff is a broad, forgiving contact patch that holds a line when the surface changes mid-corner. Cross a ribbon of gravel spilled from a driveway or a strip of rough tar, and the front stays composed rather than darting. On the marbly top layer of a Forest Service road, the footprint is big enough to track straight without hunting for a rut. The HAOQI Rhino's tire setup turns marginal surfaces into manageable ones more often than not. Braking shapes confidence on a heavy, powerful bike, and the Rhino's hydraulic discs with 160mm rotors deliver the kind of steady, linear response that lets you ride proactively. Lever feel is smooth rather than grabby, so you can set speed before a blind bend, make light corrections at mid-lean, and come off long gravel descents without cooking pads. Motor cutoffs at the lever eliminate any tug-of-war between power and braking when inputs overlap. The drivetrain is refreshingly simple and durable. A Shimano 7-speed freewheel in a 14 by 28T range with a KMC chain. The torque sensor fills the gaps a wider cassette might cover, and shifts stay clean under reasonable load. Because the motor lives in the rear hub, the chain isn't hammered by crank-mounted torque on every shift, so wear stays predictable. Keep cable tension tidy, wipe dust off after gravel days, loop regularly, and it asks for little. On winding pavement that threads between ridgelines, the Rhino's manners are calm and confidence building. It rewards setting up early, leaning to a consistent angle, and letting the chassis draw a clean arc. If a seam or patch interrupts the line, the fat tires and soft tail keep the bike from stepping sideways. Roll back onto the pedals at exit, and the torque sensor brings power in with your effort rather than after it, so there's no lurch. That same predictability helps on narrow lanes with ragged shoulders. You can meter speed precisely, hold a tidy edge line, and trust the front even when the pavement turns into a jigsaw puzzle. On gravel, the bike trades drama for grip. The mass you notice when lifting it onto your rack becomes an ally across washboard, pressing the rear into the ground while the front stays calm. Climbing is best in pedalless 2 or 3 with a smooth, seated spin that lets the torque sensor add exactly what you're asking for. The long bench gives room to slide back for traction or forward to settle the front on steeper ramps. Descents reward patience. Pick a speed before the loose section, look through the corner, and use light, even pressure at the levers. The Rhino answers with steady tracking that keeps shoulders relaxed and head clear. The daily use details complete the picture. The color LCD is bright in full sun and cleanly presents speed, assist, battery, and trip data, with buttons easy to find and in gloves. A half-twist throttle makes fine speed adjustments natural in parking lots, gravel pull-offs, and slow traffic, and it reduces thumb fatigue on longer paved stints. Lighting is strong and practical. The headlight throws a useful beam for early starts or dust returns, and the tail light bumps presence to drivers without extra fuss. The bench cover wipes clean after muddy spray, and the side mount kickstand holds the bike steady on uneven pullouts at overlooks and trailheads. There are thoughtful touches that lift the Rhino beyond a weekend toy. Passenger pegs, the long bench, and a 400-pound payload make short 2-up hops realistic if you ride within your braking envelope. The mid-frame cargo holder turns otherwise empty space into a handy spot for a bottle, a rain shell, or a compact pump, keeping the handlebar uncluttered. The display's USB charging keeps a phone or action camera alive on all-day loops. Wiring is neat and labeled, a kindness when tracing a connector, and the electrical system carries UL 2849 certification, reassuring if you store and charge in a garage attached to the living space. What ultimately sells the Rhino in the North Georgia mountains is how well the whole system works across the region's trademark conditions. Long, curling pavement that climbs the sides of ridges, asks for composure, and trustworthy brakes, and the Rhino delivers both. Chip seal patched in rough tar and scattered gravel calls for tires and suspension that absorb texture instead of translating it into twitch, and the soft tail with fat rubber answers. 4 service connectors dusted in marbles reward finesse and traction, and the torque sensor's proportional assist turns small changes in foot pressure into clean, controlled drive. Back it with a battery that has real legs and a cockpit that supports long days, and you get a compact motorbike style e-bike that works where it counts. The takeaway is simple. The upgraded HAOQI Rhino isn't trying to win on featherweight specs or slick city manners. It's a full suspension, torque sensing workhorse that turns a rugged landscape into an inviting daily environment. It carries real weight without wobble, holds its line when the surface changes under you, and answers your legs with a natural, proportional push that keeps you engaged. If your home roads look like those in the North Georgia mountains, blacktop stitched along hillsides, patch sections that test composure, and gravel lanes that beg for detours, the Rhino feels right at home, encouraging long loops, steady heads, and a relaxed curiosity for whatever surface comes next. Thanks for watching, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on this electrifying journey. This is Jeremy Vinny, signing off. We'll see you on the next one.